Ladybug, I'm 18 now, so we're 10 years old, which is crazy. And there's been a lot of, it's incredible that, we're volunteer run. I am super lucky that I get to see so many people give from their hearts, of their time, donations, that kind of thing. That has been the stuff with Ladybug. I also created something called Make Change Ladybug Foundation Education Program, which is a curriculum that can be taught from kindergarten to grade 12, and it has lesson plans, original music, and video, and teaching guides, and all that kind of stuff. And pretty much what it encourages young people to make a difference, in their world with something they care about, and then it gives them the tools to make a difference. And it's been used. We recently actually we have K-8 online so that anyone can access it, and we're just working on putting senior years online too, which is so exciting for me. So that's what's been going on.
Very cool. And I'm going to be rude and go first, if that's okay, with a question. I'm just wondering, I look back and when I was in high school and starting university and all that kind of stuff, and I was not motivated, or I hadn't gone through sort of that self-examination where I saw myself as part of a larger world. What has been your motivation to sort of say, this is something that I should do? I have an obligation towards people who are vulnerable or do not necessarily have the means for, as we've been talking about, a decent life. What's been your motivation? Like why is it that you're doing this and say people your age aren't doing this?
Well, it's kind of I think I have to go back a little bit to answer the question.
Okay.
All of this started because when I was 5 years old, I was going down a back lane in my mom's car, and I looked out the window and I saw a man eating out of a garbage dumpster, and it was the first time I'd seen poverty or homelessness before. And I asked him, what's he doing? Why is he doing that? And she explained that he was down on his luck and had to eat. And I don't think I think sometimes we never really know what's going to hang on to us and what's going to, bother us, and we're never going to know what we're not going to be able to forget about. And so that was the thing that I couldn't forget about. And for about a year, I worried about this man, and as I learned more about homelessness, about others who also have to live on the streets, and I would ask tons of questions and all this kind of stuff, and it just wouldn't let go of me. And I realized that helping others, but especially those who are homeless, is my passion, and that it's something that, it's something that I can't forget about. And so as far as why it's homelessness and why it's me, I don't know. It's just, it's what I really, really care about. And I guess I was really lucky because something that I grew up with was you always give from your heart, and you always, if you can help someone else, you do that. So it was just something I was passionate about. I think that I can't let go of.
Right on. Cool. Maybe I'll open it up to the crew, and if you can sort of ask your question relatively loudly, but then, Hannah, if you can't hear the question, just let us know.
Cool, thank you.
Okay, my question for you, Hannah, would be when you said 5 or 8 when you first, so now 10 years later, what do you understand about what you saw then that you couldn't have understood then? What do you understand about this homelessness and poverty issue now that you go, oh, back then it was just people that needed food eating out of dumpsters, but now I realize it's actually this?
That's a really good question. I don't get asked that very often, actually. I think what's so interesting is that, or what I found is that absolutely as I got older, homelessness is such a complex issue because it involves people, and people are complex and their stories are complex. And so I didn't realize at the time when I was first learning about homelessness, all the different ways that people end up on the streets, how it's, poverty in countries around the world is a complicated thing. Fixing it or helping people bring themselves out of poverty is, involves more than just food and a place to stay for a night. And I think that when I was little, that was how simple it was. And as much as I do understand now how complex the issue is and how much I realize now how much work it's going to take and how it's going to take everybody to really make a big difference in this. As much now that as I got older, I began to realize all the complex parts of homelessness, and why it exists and why people end up there and how we can help and all the different ways to help. But it still kind of goes back to this idea that I had when I was little, that we need to care about each other and share a little what we have. It still can all be boiled down to that, which I think is pretty important, and it's something that we talk about a lot with Ladybug, just that simple message that, giving from your heart is incredibly important. And so it was something I understood when I was little, and that's how simple it is. That's how simple it is when you're helping in any way. So I don't know, it's kind of both ways. I still have that understanding, and we still talk about that understanding that I had when I was little, but I also realize now how much work it's going to take.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good answer.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah.
How do you measure your success, and is there any success stories that you can share with us, or anything that you've seen that's really brought about some positive change?
Well, of course, we can look at numbers, all the stuff we talk about on our website, that kind of thing. I think we are successful and we achieve something when, through our education program, a kid has a light bulb moment and realizes they can do it too. I think that there's a success whenever we give somebody hope. I think that's one of our biggest jobs with Ladybug, is to connect people and to make people feel like they can make a difference with what they care about. Even if it isn't homelessness, especially with our education program, we use Ladybug as an example, but kids can use it to do whatever they care about, use the tools that they have and they learn about to do something that they care about. So I think our biggest successes come from giving people hope. There's a story. I'm so fortunate because I've been able to meet incredible people through this work. There's a story from when I was 10. I was visiting a youth shelter in Toronto, and I was being led on a tour by some of the people who volunteer there. And as the tour went on, more and more kids who were actually visiting the shelter to get help would join in, and they would tell me, stories about, what happened in the art room or the favorite meal that's served here and that kind of thing. And at the end, I was saying goodbye to everybody, this group of people who had come together to show me around the place. And this girl stepped out from behind the crowd, and she hadn't said anything the entire time. She was very quiet, and she hugged me, and she said, "Before today, I thought nobody loved me, and now I know that you do." Like, that's what I'm talking about. That's what we're trying to do. So that's a success story for me, for sure.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, sure.
In regards to your statement before, when you were giving an answer to the original question, was it needs to involve everyone. And I realize, obviously, by saying that, and then you're saying how you guys are tackling the education to try to reach everyone. Obviously, it sounds like your foundation is targeting the young right now. Is there any plans to try to target the older, the ones out of school, or is that kind of, you guys are more focused on the younger generation? Can we make a change? Which obviously is, maybe I'm underseeing this differently, but you're targeting the younger generation, so this may take longer than you realize. Question?
That's a good too. The education side, creating something or working for something that goes beyond grade 12.
Yeah, and I guess in regards to obviously targeting that, have governments, whether it be local or federal, have they had, or I guess more provincial than anything, since they deal with education, have they encompassed or kind of taken on your kind of but your kind of target of education to raise awareness?
Provincial governments absolutely have been very supportive. Our programs are in classes all across Canada now. We're actually working on sending out 1,500 more, so that we'll be in how many? We'll hopefully be in 10,000 classrooms pretty soon, actually. I haven't thought about going beyond school age as far as education goes. I mean, of course, I've spoken and worked with people in all sorts of different, age ranges, walks of life, through different engagements, that kind of thing. So I'm going to be honest. I haven't thought about creating something education-wise beyond grade 12 yet, just because we're still working on making sure that this is accessible to as many people as possible.
I'm going to jump in, Hannah. We've been talking a lot about global citizenship, and we've been reading a lot about it and trying to do sort of a conceptual analysis of what global citizenship might be. And that's, and not to embarrass you, but I sort of went, I think Hannah's a global citizen. How would you define, and just to put you on the spot, how would you define global citizenship?
I think it all boils down to I guess our responsibility. I know, maybe that's not.
It's not a test. I'm not your teacher anymore.
I think it really comes down to. I don't know how to say it now. Human connection for me, and how, as people, we have a responsibility and we have a duty to care for other people. I don't know. I just think that's such a big part of being a global citizen, a citizen in your, being part of anything involves caring for somebody else. So I think that global citizenship comes down to people's, I don't know, that's a big question.
Yeah. It's a... Go ahead.
I think it comes down to being connected to people.
Yeah. Well, I don't think you're alone. I think some of the heavy lifters in terms of philosophy have been talking just exactly what you said in terms of human connection, our obligation towards the other or whoever that might be, our responsibility in providing or ensuring that people have a decent human life, right? And that certainly seems to be where you're coming from and the Ladybug Foundation's coming from. Other questions from the folks? Yeah, Grant.
Hannah, how do you balance everything in your life? Because I can barely teach and not go home and be stressed. Like, how are you going to school? How are you doing this? And I know a lot of our youth are experiencing anxiety skyrocketing our youth because, in all honesty, I think they're just doing too much. Like, how do you balance everything that you're doing?
Well, growing up, my parents, they were really, really good at making sure I was balanced. Because, of course, I want to say yes to everything I'm invited to and everything, I want to say yes to everything. And they made sure that I also had time for school and friends and everything. And so it's been a very balanced life for me. It's been busy, but it's been a good kind of busy. Now that I'm at McGill, Ladybug, my role within Ladybug has to change a little bit just while I'm at school because everything is so much more demanding. And the way we do that is, I'm gonna participate and do something with Walk a Mile in Their Shoes, which is an event that Ladybug Foundation, creates or created, and it happens every year, January 31st. And so I'll be a part of that. So I'm gonna be emphasizing certain events to be a part of, and then also by doing stuff like this via Skype. The magic of technology. So just my parents have made sure that things are very balanced for me, and so I'm very lucky for that. And also I realize that right now, my work speaking and traveling and that kind of thing has to take a backseat to school at the moment.
Yeah. I'm going to be selfish and ask another question, just because I'm curious. as teachers who are struggling with this concept of global citizenship, and now we're trying to look at it within our own practice and fostering global citizenship in our practice as teachers, how do we do this? Like from your perspective as a student, right, and also as somebody who is a global citizen, how do we go about this? I always find I'm in the trap of when I'm at a school like SJR or whatever. There's the bake sales, there's sort of the color days, the $2 here and there, where we sort of go through the motions of obligation and responsibility, but it doesn't really necessarily amount to transformation, right, of attitudes and behaviors. From your experience within the school system, from your experience as somebody who is in the field, how can teachers and learning communities foster global citizenship, not necessarily better, but more effectively, I guess?
Honestly, I think, I think there are a few different parts of this. There are lots of parts of this. I think, first of all, I had when I was in grade 1, after this year of worrying about this man that I'd seen and learning about homelessness and being bothered by it, I had this idea that I would go to my grade 1 teacher and talk to her about, maybe talking to the class about homelessness and if we could do something to help. And speaking with her and the way she reacted was one of the most important. I don't think the Ladybug Foundation would be around if she hadn't done this. Because what she could have done is said, that's nice, dear, let's go do math now. But she took me seriously. She looked me in the eyes and she said, that's a great idea, I'd love to talk to you about it. And as teachers, taking something that your students care about seriously, that's such an important thing. It's such a special thing that you can do for them. So where you see excitement or passion and all that kind of stuff, taking it seriously is incredibly important. And I'm sure as you guys are working to foster global citizenship, that's absolutely what you're already doing. I think, another thing about where you see excitement and passion, I don't know if Mr. Henderson has told you this story, but I was in his grade 9 Canada and the Contemporary World class, and we were learning about we were learning about democracies and the Canadian government and how elections work and all this kind of stuff. And we had this idea. We couldn't, maybe the best way to learn about the system was to actually be a part of it. And so Mr. Henderson let us put him in the running for, I guess, MP in his area. Am I saying that right, Mr. Henderson?
Yep.
And we were his campaign party. So we were behind his speeches and our, all that kind of stuff, getting ready. And it was so amazing. I learned more about the Canadian government and how all that works than I ever had before. So that's also an incredible example of seeing excitement and rolling with it and taking it seriously. And so I think that's one of the biggest things you can do as far as fostering global citizenship is when a student is passionate about, an issue in the world, making sure they realize that passion is real and it's important.
Cool. Right on. Thank you. But you also embarrassed me, so that's... other questions for Ms. Taylor? Yeah.
I just want to thank you for your Ladybug Foundation program. I teach it to grade 3. And empowering my students, just because they're 8 doesn't mean they can't do anything to make some change in the world. And I want to say that your program at least opened that conversation up with my kids. And I had one student that was, she met an aunt who was a missionary in Africa personally, and she found out that there's some kids that couldn't afford uniforms, and that bothered her. And she came to me and said, can we make puppets as a class to raise money to get uniforms for these kids? That was kind of the idea that popped in her head. And I was so glad that I was open enough to say, okay, we'll see how that will go. But but 60 kids later and 100 puppets later, we raised some money for uniforms for it. But I saw the passion in her, and I couldn't refuse it. Like, I saw it, and your example helped me realize I couldn't squelch it. We weren't going to move on to math, as you said. Like, I had to do something, because she did approach me. So I want to thank you for your example and your program.
Thank you so much for telling me.
Other comments, questions while we have Hannah?
Maybe the obvious one. Why Ladybug Foundation? Maybe I should know.
Well, when I was 8, my thought process behind that was ladybugs are good luck, and we need good luck helping those who are homeless, and those who are homeless also need good luck in their lives, and it was also my favorite bug. That's correct.
I thought it had something to do with the fact that they're bugs that have their house in their back, and everybody needs a house. That's wrong.
There you go.
Okay. Good.
Is your university going towards helping, or are you going to work with your group? Yeah.
As in what I'm studying? Am I
Yeah. Is that directly going to be helping you in the Ladybug Foundation, or what do you want to do afterwards?
Well, I haven't picked a major yet, but I'm thinking I'll major in international development because I want to move on to human rights law eventually. And absolutely, that what I will learn here will for sure help. But no, it definitely will. Ladybug is nonprofit, and so I realize it's always going to be a part of my life. But making a living wise, I'm thinking human rights law is where I'm going. So, but both help each other.
Right on. Taylor?
That's my first name. Yours, your last. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, cool. The Canadian Museum for Human Rights just opened, and my students were doing a project on human rights that they thought were important, and they each made a piece of art as like a mosaic for it. And someone actually made a big ladybug. And it was because, I guess, you had come to talk to them when they were little, and you were young, maybe? And they had thought that was really important. And I just think that on a more local level, it's really great that your experience is local, and it's going even more global. So thank you for that. I thought that was really cool, and maybe you should hear it.
Thank you for saying that.
Cool. Yeah, Brian.
Just a question about have you run into opposition to what you do, and how do you deal with your detractors if you get any?
I have run into opposition a few times. Something I realized, and it was a fantastic realization, is most of the time people want to help, they just don't know how to get started. And I guess the way that I've dealt with opposition is probably just by realizing that people care about different things, and hopefully if they don't care about this, they care about something else and are doing something about something else, because there's a lot of work to do in all sorts of areas. So that's mostly how I've dealt with that kind of thing.
Right on. Cool. Well, do we have another question?
Just a statement. I just want to let you know that I think you are a remarkable young woman. I'm very grateful that you are in this world, and just thank you for all your work, and keep going, girl.
Thank you so much.
Right on. Well, Hannah, thank you so much for your time. I know it's valuable. I know that you're studying and squirreling away there and not doing anything social whatsoever in a beautiful city like Montreal. But thanks for sharing your thoughts with us, and we really, really appreciate it. I think it's given us a lot of stuff to chew on. So thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, take care.
You too.
Bye.